So today I'm going to talk about the CHERISH project and going to look at a single study area where we've been investigating climate change impacts on the maritime cultural landscapes of Ballinskelligs Bay in County Kerry. So Ballinskelligs is a demonstration site of Adapt Northern Heritage, and CHERISH have worked closely with Adapt Northern Heritage on this site. Ballinskelligs Bay is located on the southwestern extent of the Iveragh Peninsula in Kerry. It opens onto the Atlantic Ocean. This position along the western seaboard of Europe means the bay is located along one of the most exposed coastlines to storms in Europe. Ballinskelligs Bay has been a formative part of many human landscapes throughout time, and today we encounter it predominantly as a settlement and recreational landscape, having previously played a pivotal role within Kerry's monastic landscape. The UNESCO World Heritage Site of Skellig Michael lies off the Ballinskellig coast. The monastery of Skellig Michael was transferred to the west coast of Ballinskelligs in the mid-11th century, and this was due to hazardous conditions on the rock. This map denotes the survey work undertaken by the CHERISH project over the last 3 years, and we'll come back to this map later on after discussing the survey work in more depth. The Priory of the Orosian Canons of the Order of St. Augustine was founded around 1210 or shortly thereafterwards. The Priory was still Orosian and occupied by canons in 1555 and was still have been in use by 1569. It was disbanded by 1578, and the Priory comprises a number of buildings which exhibit architectural details relating to various periods between the 13th and 15th centuries. The Priory's shoreline location has meant it has been the subject of much restoration work by the Office of Public Works. The erosion at this site has been happening since at least the 18th century and has resulted in the destruction of several buildings on much of the southeast side of the monastery and graveyard. In October 1962, erosion uncovered human remains on the seashore in front of the Priory. A substantial seawall, refetted by groins, protects the site. The Priory buildings have been repaired and repointed by the Office of Public Works. To the north of the Priory, McCarthy's Castle sits on the tip of a narrow promontory of land that juts into the sea. The tower house is probably 16th century in date and associated with the McCarthys, who were chieftains in Cork and Kerry. The history of the Tower House appears to be closely linked to that of the nearby Priory during the later 16th and 17th centuries. It may be identified as the manor which the Sigerson family occupied in Ballinskelligs in the early 17th century. This promontory suffers badly from erosion and has changed substantially in living memory. The castle was once linked to the 20th century concrete harbour that is now separated from the mainland. Potentially this erosion has in itself been accelerated by the building of the harbour. This 3-storey rectangular tower house rises from a battered base built on bedrock. Its walls are built of split stone laid in strong pebbly mortar with marine shell inclusions. At each floor level, the plan of the building consists of a main chamber with an adjoining mural passageway. Access to the upper floor of the structure is gained by means of this mural stairway that is approached from the entrance lobby. The castle ruins remain largely intact. However, the southern corner is badly damaged with a breakthrough in the wall in this area. This has been present since at least the first quarter of the 20th century. This is partly due to being the location of an oak, its exposure to the sea, and the wall being thinner here due to the mural stairs located in this corner of the tower house. Following the erosion of tracts of land around the castle, excavations were undertaken by John Sheehan, University College Cork, during 2 seasons in 1988 and 1991. The excavations focused on the area under the garderobe chute oak, the interior of the castle, and to the southeast side of the castle. On the southeast side of the castle, winter storms in 1987 to 1988 caused the loss and exposure of archaeological layers. In the images here, the contrast between the sediment cover and buildup of material in 1923 and today is quite visible, especially when one looks at the castle doorway, and only a small portion of the doorway is visible in the earlier image from 1923. And you can see just a portion of the doorway that shows the pointed archway. Today, exposed bedrock lies to the site east of the castle, and the full extent of the doorway is visible. The build-up of storm material from within the castle was excavated in the late 80s and 90s. This revealed the large paving slabs of the original ground floor. It was the encroachment by the sea on this site that spurred Crawford in 1923 to publish on the castle, as he feared it would be lost in the years to come. He notes the castle as previously having stood near the shore, stating great erosion has occurred here. Also visible in Crawford's photographs is a building that formerly stood against the northeast wall. This appears to have been relatively modern in date, as it is not noted in the OSL and does not feature in the Lawrence collection photographs of the site. An ancient hamlet is located approximately 120 metres to the northwest of Ballinskelligs Priory, just beyond the northern extent of the OPWC wall. This area is being affected by erosion that may be attributed to the hard defences in this area. A complex of grass-grown stony banks represent up to 11 possible structures, with exposed sections of coarse dry stone walling. The majority of structures visible are rectangular in outline, with 3 circular examples present. Scattered throughout the site are a number of sod-covered mounds. It is possible this settlement is associated with the pilchard fishery, which was established at Ballinskelligs by Sir William Petty. Significant cliff erosion can be found all around Ballinskelligs Bay. Exposed peats and intertidal forests are visible in the storm beach between the Priory and Castle and along the western side of Inny Strand. In the summer of 1989, on the western side of Inny Strand, during a period of high tides and stormy weather, a series of 27 cultivation ridges were exposed. An intertidal wreck is located at the mouth of the Inny River, with different levels of exposure up to the site occurring at different times. In June 2018, the Discovery Programme team collected terrestrial laser scan data of McCarthy Castle. The laser scan system employed for the acquisition of data was a far focus 120 phase-based laser scanner with spherical targets. The data was georeferenced using a Trimble RTK differential GPS system. A point spacing of just over 7 millimeters at 10 meters was achieved. In June 2018, the Discovery Programme undertook a concentrated UAV survey of the western shore of the bay, encompassing the area from the Priory to the Castle. The Discovery Programme uses a DJI Phantom 4 Pro drone for the 3D mapping of local landscapes. The project is planned and executed using the DJI Ground Station app hosted on an iPad mini. Ground control markers provide high precision georeferencing of the data. A ground pixel size of approximately 2.5 centimeters was achieved, and photogrammetric processing was undertaken in Agisoft PhotoScan Pro. This survey will be repeated in the final years of the project to measure rates of change that have occurred along this stretch of coast. The Geological Survey of Ireland gathered an 8-kilometre stretch of coastal UFE survey focused on the north and west of the bay. The GSI used a lightweight fixed-wing SenseFly EB Plus UFE. The data gathered produces a ground sampling distance of 2.3 centimeters, and georeferencing of the data captures through the high precision built-in RTK PPK functionality. Checkpoints were distributed around the parameter of the survey area across different elevations and surface types. For example, grass, sand, and hard ground. Checkpoints were mapped using a Trimble R4 GNSS receiver, and photogrammetric processing is undertaken in Pix4D. In May 2019, the team from the Geography Department at Aberystwyth University were joined by members of the DP for the collection of cores from 4 locations in Ballinskelligs Bay. The team used 2 coring methods. The team undertook Russian or percussion coring depending on the sediment type. The paleo-environmental core taken to the southwest of the bay is located in the townland Ballinskelligs and shows 5.5 metres of organic phragmites peat overlying pinky grey silts and clays. Basal peats from this core have been dated to 6,323 to 6,481 calibrated BP. The most northerly core is located at Emlamore, is a 4.5 metre sequence of sphagnum peat overlying pinky grey silty clay. The basal peat returned a date of 5,674 to 5,902 calibrated BP. The team also obtained a low tide core, an inshore core, and a tree stump was sampled for dating. The tree stump was identified as pine and has produced a date of 3,985 to 4,148 calibrated BP. The low tide and inshore core have the potential to tell when the formation of the peat was halted by the arrival of the beach. The walkover survey involved discovery programme archaeologists and surveyors covering large tracts of the bay, with individual space to ensure overlapping fields of vision, approximately following transects 15 metres apart. Only finds at risk of being lost or moved out of context were to be recovered with locations logged. Sites of archaeological potential were identified with a written record and positional data captured. Positional data is captured with a handheld Garmin GPS with an accuracy of plus or minus 3 metres. The areas chosen for walkover survey are influenced by historic and cartographic research. The areas outlined for walkover survey were the monastic site of Kildrelock, the intertidal area to the west and north of the bay, that complemented the UFE survey of the bay undertaken by the GSI. This area started at Ballinskelligs Priory and finished at Waterfill Golf Course, which is located to the east of the mouth of the River Inny. The team undertook additional focused site visits of areas within Ballinskelligs Bay identified due to cartographic and depth-based research. On this map here, you can see the data capture that has been undertaken so far by the CHERISH project over the last 3 years in Ballinskelligs Bay. The concentrated UFE surveys undertaken at Kildrelock and at Priory and Castle by the Discovery Programme, the larger expansive coastline that covers the intertidal zone that was gathered by the Geological Survey of Ireland. The location of the core sites, the 4 coring locations from around the bay are also denoted by point marks. And also the team will potentially collect further work here in Ballinskelligs Bay, hopefully aerial survey from a fixed winged platform will be undertaken by Toby Driver, and the potential to investigate the site further using geophysical survey to investigate the ancient hamlet, and potentially bathymetric data collection may occur over the duration of the project. The ongoing erosion of Ballinskelligs Bay is most identifiable through its impacts on the built heritage located to the northwest of the bay. Erosion and loss of land is marked all around the bay, with the loss of soft sediments and cliff collapse. The quantity and rate of loss here is harder to calculate. The change recorded around the bay since at least the early 19th century and the predicted global rise in sea level and severity of storm events indicates that in time of human intervention is not consistent in plan, taking into consideration the hydrodynamic processes of the bay, that the castle and priory will continue to be severely impacted by the sea and perhaps lost from the record. The longevity and impacts of planned interventions will surely vary across the Bay, as is already visible today. Therefore, the importance in creating records and monitoring change provide information into the rates of erosion, along with other climate change impacts that are occurring in Ballinskelligs, how they impact heritage and the geomorphology of the bay, along with providing records of the known heritage in the area and endeavouring to create records of previously unknown sites and garnish information before it's lost. This in turn feeds information into the sites and monuments record held by the National Monument Service. The CHERISH baseline data sets from the focused targeted laser scan of McCarthy's Castle to the UFE surveys offered localised and larger measured data sets to work from to establish answers to these questions. The paleoenvironmental work offers an insight into the development of the bay and its environment. The data tree stump from an Strand tell us that a forest was present in the north of the bay in the Bronze Age, and the probability exists that much of this forest and land extended far past what we see today as the low water mark. As the size of the bay changed throughout the millennia, in turn, so too did the marine zone and the hydrodynamic processes at play, directly impacting the geomorphology of the area and the heritage we encounter today. Thank you.